Hey, welcome. This is a short instructional video about our air yoga hammock. I'm going to walk through how to take apart the hammock that will be hanging in the studio, how to undo the knots, and also retie them so that you're prepared if one of the hammocks needs to be adjusted for your students, if you need to wash a hammock, or just for general at-home usage. So this hammock was hanging in the studio last week. This is my hammock. But you can see I have the knot here that we hang at the bottom to keep it above head height for other students. So I'll first just untie that and then shake out the hammock. And then we have the full length here. So just working with one end, I'm going to come a little bit closer so that you can see. We have the carabiner here that we attach to the hooks in the ceiling, and then also a rope. The ones in the studio aren't this long, but I have a very long one at home. And also the knot. This knot here is just for show. So I'll untie that knot, and then you'll see that we have the full length of the fabric from one end, and it goes through to the other side. What you can do next is unhook the carabiner. And all you do is you unscrew or untwist this part here and twist it so that you can open. It's always important to have this safety lock on when the hammocks are installed at home or in the studio to just make sure that any movement doesn't cause this to unravel and unhook. Very unlikely that it could happen, but good to know. So we unhook the carabiner here and set it to the side. So the next step is that we have our rope. In the studio, we use ropes. There's different systems that you can use. Those are written in your manual, but we prefer using ropes. Find it easy to adjust for the students, easy to maintain, and also you can easily check for damage. So always good when you're washing your hammock just to take a look at the rope, notice any damage. I used mine outdoors for some point, and you can notice here there's some damage on the rope. Nothing that's going to cause an injury, but it's just good to keep an eye on that. So to take off the rope, all you need to do is unhook the knot here. And I will show you what that looks like. Just open the loop, slide it off. Also good to note when these are hanging in the studio, if you want to adjust the fabric to make it longer, you can slide this knot over. Then you have a longer hammock. Or if you want to make it shorter, you can tighten it up like this. When would you do that instead of using the rope? If you've already hooked the carabiner down to this first hook to make it as high as possible. Maybe you have a very tall student. Then instead of using the rope, you ran out of rope, you adjust the hammock one way or the other. You can also do a quick adjustment with the hammock for your students if that feels better for you. But this is how we do it. And then we slide it off to one end and you set the rope to the side. So now we have the fabric open. We do the same thing on the other side. So this is the next step. We've unrigged the hammock. I've laid the silk out. It takes up quite a big space, so make sure you have space for it. And we're going to pretend that I washed the hammock. I have it now. It's on my to-do list for after this video, which is nice because you can actually see the effect of the rope on my fabric. And it's important after you wash the hammock and before you re-rig that you check for any damage. You can see it in the video here, this subtle line in the fabric. This is from where the rope has been pressing and pinching the fabric. So I would just want to do a quick check to make sure that there isn't any snags, rips, or tears, to take a look and make sure that the fabric is still whole and secure, safe for you, safe for your students. And then what we do is that we make sure we have a straight line on one end of the fabric and it's stretched out fully in the other direction. And there's a few different methods that you can use. What's nice is just to use the fingers and we pinch the fabric into the hands. Why do we do this in such a precise way? If we just take the fabric into one hand and pull it in together, then you're not going to have an even knot on one end. And this will affect the hammock. When you go to sit in the fabric or you're using it, you'll notice that it's not completely smooth in the center. Then whoever rigged the fabric maybe did it in a hurry, and it's a bit uneven. So it seems very precise and a bit overkill to do it in this method, but it really makes a difference in the long run. So we lay out the fabric. Now that I've bunched it up, I'll lay it out again, and I'll kind of show you what it looks like when you do it a little bit faster. And you'll get an idea of why it's important to do it very slow and steady. But, so, we have one end of the fabric here, and I'm going to take my hands maybe about chest distance, and again, I'm doing this pinching method. So I'm taking the fingers out, and then pinching the fabric together, holding it by the thumbs, reaching my fingers out, and pinching the fabric together. And you'll continue that method, reaching and pinching, reaching and pinching, all across the fabric, and then I'll show you what it looks like in the end. So this is what the fabric looks like after doing this pinching method. And you can see that my fabric wasn't 100% straight. So we have a little bit of a difference here in the center, and then it comes back to about the same height. So what you can do is find this fold of the fabric down here and just kind of tug and pull a little bit to see if you can adjust the fabric to the same height. So just little adjustments here, and then now it's about the same height. So it's a little bit different, that's okay. It's never going to be exactly perfect, but this is a pretty good fold. So now I have my fabric gathered into one point, and all I'm going to do is I'll take the rope. I have my knotted rope, and you want to take the closed loop end. So we have one end that has the final knot, and the other one that's a closed loop end. And this end I'll take under the fabric, grab the loop, and then take the opposite end of the rope and thread it through the loop. And I'll show you what that looks like. And then I will pull it tight. You want to be careful as you're doing this that you don't adjust the folds of the fabric, so you still have this nice fold on one side. And then you'll pull it up, and you'll have an even fold on one side and even hammock release on the other side. It's very simple. Again, check the rope for safety. Everything looks good. And then you'll take your carabiner, you'll attach it into the rope, into one of the loops, hook it up into your eye hooks in the rope. That's it. Same thing, other side. Okay, the final step here is how to tie up this extra end of the fabric. The fabric here is secure. This rope is what holds the fabric in place, but this extra bit of fabric can get in the way when you're practicing and you want to use the full length of the fabric. So what I do is that I take my hand and I'm going to reach through the fabric and grab hold of the small edge. Take the small edge of the fabric, loop it behind the long edge of the fabric, come around my hand, and then loop in through the hole. So my hand is creating a hole. I loop the little tail through, down, and then you grab the extra end, you pull down on the fabric and pull up on the knot. This is a really great hand conditioning exercise. It's a lot of pulling and tugging. But now I have a tight knot. It looks okay, but it's kind of ugly. There's a few things that you can do. You can pull up the edge of the fabric to cover the rope edge of the knot. That looks a little bit nicer. And you can take the tail and you can tuck it back up into the fabric, into that edge, and then loop the fabric and pull it down around to hide everything. Sometimes it's a bit hard to get the fabric to stay there because as you start to move and pull, it can pop back out. So you can negotiate, maybe you want to loop it down underneath the bottom edge. If you have a little bit of space there, you can do that. But again, as you move and pull, this edge can come out. So that part is a bit personal preference. But as you can see, I just adjusted the knot to make this nice covered knot. It looks very clean and fresh and very aesthetic for your hammock. So that's what it looks like. It's super simple, super easy. The only problem about hiding the knot is it takes a little bit longer to adjust during class, but that's also why we have the rope. So in theory, you don't have to touch the hammock knot. You can just adjust the carabiner along to hook on to another section of the rope, this so-called daisy chain that we've created here. So that's the hammock. Good luck.